Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated and taking over Ichigo's body. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 11: The Deal with Kisuke, Ichigo's True Nature. However, Ichigo also noticed this. He changed the subject. What about me? Rukia, this just looks like an ordinary little shop. Does it really have the assistance you need? Of course. Relieved by Ichigo's intervention, Rukia let out a sigh. She shot a warning look at Kisuke. I need to purchase a jigai, a soul candy, and a pair of push glove. Of course, no problem, Kisuke said with a laugh. Yururu, please take Kachiki-san to get them. Please follow me. Yururu came out and led Rukia inside. Following Yururu into the shop, Rukia passed by Kisuke and glared at him. Don't say anything unnecessary. At this moment, Rukia felt some annoyance. Ichigo had said he would escort her here, and she had just let him, without considering the risk of Ichigo being exposed. It was all because Ichigo had made too much of an impact on her. However, who was Kisuke? He paid no heed to Rukia's warning. After Rukia went inside, Kisuke looked at Ichigo, speaking meaningfully. Becoming a Shinigami while still human, young man, do you truly understand what that represents? His words once again stirred up a storm in the live stream comments. What does this guy mean? Could it be that Rukia-san giving her power to this guy violated some kind of taboo? It seems so. The Shinigami are a large organization. If everyone could just give their power to others, wouldn't the world be in chaos? Does that mean Ichigo is in deep trouble? The viewers who realized this began to worry. Even though they kept cursing Ichigo, envying him, and being jealous of his experiences, joking was one thing, but serious business was another. Ichigo and this batch were pioneers, people going into the game to acquire power. Dongwa had finally seen one who stood out, so it would be a pity if he were lost just like that. Furthermore, recent disclosures revealed that Shigua's genius, Landa, was collecting information about other players on a large scale for unknown purposes. Dongwa viewers who frequently watched Landa's stream could also see that many players in the Soul Society had indeed been identified by Landa's investigations. Although his exact intentions were unclear, based on their consistent understanding of Shigua, everyone in Dongwa felt it certainly couldn't be for anything good. Under such circumstances, Ichigo, who was in the living world, hidden among the vast population, and had also obtained Shinigami powers, became very important. Besides being rare, no one in Dongwa wanted anything bad to happen to him. After discovering this potential danger, everyone stared intently at the live stream feed. But in the feed, standing at the shop entrance and hearing Kisuke's words, Ichigo merely adopted a more serious expression and said directly, "If you have something to say, shopkeeper, please speak plainly. You deliberately separated from Rukia precisely for this reason, didn't you?" My. Looking at Ichigo like this, the fluttering frequency of Kisuke's small fan increased sharply, like a fan during high CPU load. Clearly, Ichigo's response had once again taken him by surprise. Kisuke hadn't had direct contact with the original Ichigo, but he had practically watched him grow up. He was very familiar with everything about the original Ichigo, at least everything before the current Ichigo arrived. But now, everything had changed. Both the maturity Ichigo displayed and his strength. Kisuke couldn't help but say, "You, young man, don't seem like a 15-year-old boy at all." Hearing this, Ichigo's heart tightened slightly, but he wasn't nervous, as this was something he had anticipated. He explained without changing his expression, "People can change. Especially someone like me, whose mother died early, whose father is unreliable, and who nearly died last night while his beloved sisters were almost attacked." Ah, that's true indeed. Kisuke closed his small fan, his suspicions about Ichigo slightly alleviated. After all, men were like that, maturity could often come overnight. But if that was the case, my own plans would probably have to change accordingly. After a moment's thought, Kisuke continued, then I'll be direct, young man. What Kuchiki-san did, transferring her Shinigami power to you, is a serious crime for a Shinigami. Hearing this, Ichigo nodded gravely. I figured as much. The duties of a Shinigami are far too important. If everyone gave their power to humans, the world would fall into chaos. Even though he had some anticipation, Ichigo's response still shocked Kisuke. Snap. Kisuke's small fan opened again, covering his face, preventing Ichigo from seeing his expression. He also realized that being direct might be the most effective way to communicate with Ichigo. Then what are your thoughts on this? Chapter 12 Rare tacit understanding makes Rukia suspicious. Rukia saved my family, saved me. I will try every possible means to repay her kindness. Ichigo said seriously. If the Soul Society holds her accountable, I will do my utmost to explain. Hearing Ichigo's words, Kisuke nodded slightly to himself, then narrowed his eyes. The problem is, the Suriitii is a cold military organization. They won't listen to you. What if they come to arrest her? Ichigo replied without hesitation, then I will protect her with all my strength. Listening to his answer, Kisuke couldn't help but lean forward a bit, asking further. But with your current strength, the people from the Suriitii only need a couple of strikes to strip you of your Shinigami powers. What will you do then? Then I will train with all my might before the Suriitii agents you mentioned arrive. I will do everything I can. Ichigo's expression was solemn, his vow serious and solemn. Seemingly shocked by Ichigo's determination, Kisuke hid behind his fan, his eyes thoughtful, falling into silence. After a series of intense questions and answers, both fell silent for a moment. Finally, it was Ichigo, who had grown increasingly resolute, whose expression relaxed. Ichigo smiled, fixing his gaze on Kisuke's eyes. You've asked me so many questions, it's time to talk about you, shopkeeper. The reason I came with Rukia today was to learn more about the things behind her. Originally, I thought this was just a small shop providing logistical support for Shinigami. But now it seems, shopkeeper, your stance is quite strange. Hearing this, Kisuke lowered his fan and laughed awkwardly. My, what a fearsome young man, you actually saw through that. So, do you mind? I don't mind, shopkeeper. No matter what you plan to do, I will verify it with my own eyes later. Ichigo said with a smile, as long as you can provide me with what I want. Such a confident and fearsome young man. Kisuke sighed. In his heart, he removed the simple label of Shiba Ishin's son from Ichigo and replaced it with young genius, little fox. After this intense verbal exchange, both fell silent, waiting for Rukia to return. Soon, Rukia, now in a human jigai, hurriedly appeared. Looking at the silent pair, Rukia was extremely suspicious. Ichigo, shopkeeper Urahara, what were you two talking about just now? Nothing. Nothing at all. Kisuke and Ichigo shook their heads simultaneously. But this synchronized action and speech only made Rukia more suspicious. Yet, even if she racked her brains, Rukia probably couldn't imagine what kind of deal Ichigo and Urahara Kisuke had reached. Puzzled, Rukia could only return with Ichigo first to discuss the plan of action going forward. Similarly, the live stream viewers who watched the entire scene didn't understand it either. Experts, pardon my ignorance, I understood every word they just said, but why do I feel like I'm facing advanced mathematics and understood nothing? Silence prevailed. But everyone waited quietly. After a good while, someone finally spoke up. Brothers! I've gone over the conversation between Ichigo and that shopkeeper 3 times, and I think I roughly get it now. In summary, Ichigo is an utterly terrifying individual. His true nature is not at all what we previously thought with our outdated views, that he was just a lucky guy. On the contrary, his mind is extremely deep. Choosing the high school boy was deliberate on his part, precisely to gain the maximum benefit. This conversation between Ichigo and the shopkeeper, simply put, was them striking a deal. On Earth, in the live stream of Ichigo. In the feed, after discussing the future operational guidelines as a substitute Shinigami with Rukia, Ichigo was now heading to school with Rukia to help her complete the enrollment procedures, ensuring they could act together. In the past, seeing this beautiful girl falling from the sky becoming a classmate, and predicting that she would be closely tied to Ichigo for a long time due to Shinigami matters, living and working together. Then the bunch of jealous viewers in the livestream would definitely howl like ghosts and wolves, green with envy, going crazy, reciting copypastas. But now, in the live stream room, everyone remained silent, waiting for the explanation from the knowledgeable guy who spoke earlier. As if the entire chat was muted, the knowledgeable guy continued his explanation. Ichigo is very smart, at least much smarter than most of us here. So, while it seems like he's just attending school, living the hidden high school urban life we all talk about, in reality, he's like a hidden strategist, waiting for his opportunity in his hiding spot. Chapter 13 Ichigo, frightening to this extent. After pausing for a moment, he continued his analysis. Then, his luck was also very good, the opportunity actually came. Rukia arrived and, due to an accident, transferred her power to him. At that time, all of us were envious of this guy and extremely jealous of his damn luck. Then, what was the cost? None of us asked that question. But in reality, at that very moment, Ichigo had already foreseen the cost behind obtaining that power. This morning, he so decisively arranged everything for Rukia. While we were still enchanted with Rukia's cuteness, Ichigo had already, through his own reliability, taken control of the initiative between the two. So Ichigo could use the reason of escorting Rukia to come all the way here and meet this shopkeeper. Ichigo wanted to understand the cost of obtaining power and find a way to deal with it by contacting people behind the scenes. But he didn't expect that this shopkeeper was also a mysterious figure. He wasn't just the owner of a miscellaneous goods store. Regarding what Ichigo wanted to explore, the shopkeeper proactively revealed information. This was actually the shopkeeper casting bait, setting a hook. If Ichigo weren't a player, but truly a 15-year-old boy, he would have been led by the nose by this mysterious shopkeeper from start to finish. So Ichigo directly called him out, telling the shopkeeper that they were both old foxes, so there was no need to play tricks here. And this shopkeeper was very compliant. He didn't state his own purpose, but directly asked Ichigo what he was willing to do for Rukia. This was him appraising Ichigo's value. Then we all saw Ichigo's response. The image of a mature, calm, yet deeply feeling and grateful young man leaped off the page. This image is crucial. It signifies how much weight the shopkeeper would add for Ichigo, for his own unknown purposes. Finally, the shopkeeper asked, "Do you mind?" which essentially meant, "Aren't you curious about my motives?" Ichigo said he didn't mind, because he knew caring wouldn't make the shopkeeper tell him. He would only see with his own eyes, and only needed the shopkeeper to help him train and increase his strength regarding Rukia's matter. This also demonstrates Ichigo's confidence. Or rather, his intelligence. He is confident that his strength can improve rapidly, and confident that he won't die. Because, ultimately, he is just a player. As long as he survives the 2.5 years, he can leave with his power. And in my opinion, this kind of confidence is the most terrifying. How dare he place his bets when everything is still unknown? Finally, the knowledgeable guy exclaimed in awe. Ichigo, frightening to this extent. After reading his complete explanation, all the viewers who saw it were completely blown away. Holy crap, what level of intelligence is this? Even Prodigy probably isn't this amazing, right? Of course not. If we're talking about intelligence, then we're just playing checkers while this guy was playing 4D chess with his feet. Terrifying. Did I really go through the same 9 years of compulsory education as him? Same 9 years, how are you so outstanding? Ridiculous. The bullet comments were filled with exclamations one after another. The dense comments even forced people to adjust the comment settings, turning the opacity to the minimum, just to continue watching the stream. Luckily, this was the live stream of the Heaven's Path game. If it were really on a streaming platform on Earth, it would have crashed long ago. These people probably could never have imagined that Ichigo wasn't nearly as divine as they thought. The reason he could act this way was simply because he knew Kasuke's background inside and out and knew the other would definitely help him. However, deducing from the outcome, the first half of the knowledgeable guy's analysis in the live stream room was correct. Ichigo's trip to the Urahara shop this time was indeed premeditated. He didn't want to be pushed along dazedly by the situation like the original Ichigo. Since he had obtained the best card, he wanted to control the situation. The original Ichigo didn't know Kido, and among Zanjutsu, Hakuta, Ho-Oh, and Kido, he only knew Zanjutsu and a bit of Ho-Oh. And even his Ho-Oh wasn't Shinigami Shuunpa, as he used Quincy's Hirenkyaku after achieving Bankai. Since he had entered, Ichigo certainly didn't want to be so ignorant. He could put Hakuta aside for now, and Ho-Oh could rely on the Quincy power within him, but he absolutely had to learn Kido. By clarifying things with Kasuke so early, he gained much more time to learn. Ichigo's current small goal was to be able to fight Byakuya when he and Rinji arrived. Anyway, whether it was Kasuke, Aizen, or even the hollow within him, none of them would let him die, so what did Ichigo have to fear? However, Ichigo had calculated everything in the Bleach world, but there was one thing he hadn't accounted for. Chapter 14: The game stirs things up. That is, the game is stirring things up. Just as the viewers in the livestream were still discussing how impressive Ichigo's moves were, a notification suddenly appeared in the livestream. Ding! As a player has met the special training criteria, a special function is now being launched. Viewers' game coins can now be used for more than just betting on who will be top of the leaderboard and participating in prize quizzes. Viewers' game coins can also be bet on players. Based on the amount of coins bet, we will adjust the level of danger the player encounters. But note, all dangers are not completely unavoidable natural disasters, but can be understood as trials. If the player passes the trial, all game coins bet on that player will be available for the player's use. If the player does not pass the danger, then everything they have obtained so far will be converted into game coins and returned to the viewers who placed bets. Note, the game coins in your hands will have an irreversible impact on the game process. Please use this function with caution. Player currently eligible for this agreement: Ling Fan, Kurosaki Ichigo. Seeing the announcement from the live stream, whether from Dongwei or Shigwa, it was like a nuclear bomb had exploded. All the viewers went crazy. After seeing the game's new announcement, the live stream was filled with question marks. This rule was too difficult to understand. It said that players are seeking power for the people outside. But now, the game has introduced a means for people outside to use game coins to influence the players inside. This completely defies common sense. What does this even mean? Someone asked in the comments. I've disliked Ichigo since before. Does this mean I can bet my coins on him now and watch him face danger? Don't. Absolutely don't. Someone dissuaded. Even though the game says the danger is just a trial, won't kill anyone, and won't be completely insurmountable, what if? What if Ichigo really dies because of this? Wouldn't Dongwo lose a rising star then? The problem is, brothers, these game coins are damn anonymous. Someone discovered a terrifying situation. There are plenty of online traitorous scum, and also people from Shigwa. Even if we consciously don't bet, what if they bet on Ichigo? Their hero is our enemy, brothers. Looking at this person's red, bolded comment, many conscientious Dongwa viewers who saw this felt very upset. If others also had this function enabled, they could retaliate in kind, equivalent to the deterrent of a dead hand system for nuclear weapons. The problem was that only Ichigo had it enabled now. Sure enough, the next moment, after everyone understood the system's announcement. Ha ha ha, you Dongwa people must have offended God, so God is punishing you like this. What hero? Watch me crush him with my game coins. A Shigwa viewer typed laughingly. His words were like a bugle call for a Shigwa assault. As soon as this was said, the number of game coins bet against Ichigo skyrocketed. 10,000, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion. In an instant, the coins bet against Ichigo reached the level of 1 billion. And this was despite the system announcement being temporary. Each viewer only gets 10 coins per day, which disappear whether used or not. Only coins won back become their own. So everyone tends to spend their game coins as soon as they get up in the morning. Meaning, the coins currently bet against Ichigo are from what many people had left after spending theirs. If it were tomorrow, the coins bet against Ichigo would only be more. You Shigwa dog from earlier, screw your grandmother. If you have the guts, give a real-life address and come fight your grandpa one-on-one. Damn it, all Shigwa people are petty villains who can't stand to see others do well. An enraged Dongwa brother typed explosively. But Shigwa was not to be outdone. A massive war of words erupted, not just limited to the game livestream, but sweeping across the entire platform. Fortunately, seemingly aware that the real-world situation was getting out of hand, the game urgently locked the betting function for Ichigo. The current betting limit has been reached. No further bets are possible. Please wait until this player passes this trial before continuing. But even though the game locked the betting function for Ichigo, what lay before everyone was a massive figure in the billions. What do we do, brothers? Is there really no way? Someone asked despairingly. Chapter 15: The Despair of Dongwa, the Possibility of Three Swords. However, after a period of indescribable silence, only a few scattered people spoke up. There's no way. We can only trust the country, wait for the country to intervene and mediate later, and believe in Ichigo. The essence of the game introducing this function is still to accelerate player growth. If Ichigo can pass this trial, then there's still a lot of potential going forward. Is that so? After the farce, everyone's gaze quietly fixed on Ichigo within the game. What's wrong? On the way home after attending afternoon classes at school, Rukia looked strangely at Ichigo, who had suddenly stopped. His gaze lingered in the empty air for a moment before Ichigo shook his head. No, it's nothing. Let's keep going. By the way, we're at the convenience store. Since you're staying in my closet, you'd better buy whatever you need in advance. Oh. Looking at the convenience store ahead, Rukia quickly nodded and went in. Watching Rukia excitedly browse the convenience store, Ichigo waited outside for her. By now, he already knew about the game's new function and the amount bet against him. Game coins, interesting. Ichigo was quite intrigued by the betting mechanism with game coins. Because, as informed by the game system, he now knew what game coins actually were. The 10 game coins each person gets daily are the fantasy power generated by each person every day. Previously, the game harvested fantasy power through betting methods, but found the effect lacking, so it developed this new form. And since it's fantasy power, its ability is naturally to realize fantasies. Frankly speaking, the function of game coins is powerful. Ichigo looked at the game coin shop that had just refreshed for him. Amplify a small amount of Ryuryoku, 10 million per use. Improve physical fitness somewhat, 10 million per use. Obtain a blank practice space for 24 hours. 100 million per use. Customize an enemy dummy, lasts 1 hour, 100 million per use. Obtain a Kido/Sanjutsu/Hakuda/Shuunpa teacher, lasts 24 hours, 100 million per use. The game coin shop offered everything from directly boosting strength to hiring teachers for improvement, to practicing by oneself. Ichigo was even somewhat dissatisfied that his prize pool stopped at just 1 billion. Because he discovered something astonishing at the very end of the game shop. Obtain a third sword, one's own Zanpakuto. Cost, 600 billion game coins. In the Bleach world, a Shinigami's Ryatsu increases by multiples as their sword is released. For example, Shurkai multiplies by 5, Bankai by 10. The relationship between Shurkai and Bankai is multiplicative, resulting in a total potential increase of 50 times. But there is one special exception. That is dual swords. Dual swords are superior to single swords, allowing for multiples upon multiples, but dual swords are extremely difficult to obtain. The birth of a Zanpakuto is based on the Shinigami's soul essence and their desire. Whether it's Kayaraka Shuunsue's or Yukite Jushiro's dual swords, they are both due to the presence of heterogeneous power within their bodies and their personal desires. It can be said that all dual swords are innate. The problem is, Kurosaki Ichigo was originally a collection of heterogeneous powers, the opposition between Shinigami, Hollow, and Quincy, so he has the potential for dual swords. And now the game is telling Ichigo that, on top of Kurosaki Ichigo's original dual swords, he can add his own sword, achieving the unprecedented 3 swords. This is utterly terrifying. With continuous multiplicative stacking, Ichigo could even see the possibility of becoming like Son Goku during his fight against Frieza, multiplying his combat power to a terrifying 150 million directly. Thinking of this, Ichigo's heart suddenly burned with fervor. However, 3 swords is just a beautiful dream. Before the dream, effort must be paid. The second day, and even the third day in the Bleach world, were like the calm before the storm, not as stimulating as the first day. Only occasionally exterminating some minor hollows that could be solved easily, the Shinigami work abruptly ended. However, on the evening of the 4th day, coo-coo! A bird call sounded outside Ichigo's window. Lying on the bed, as if asleep, Ichigo suddenly opened his eyes. Immediately after, a soul candy was thrown in through the window. Ichigo caught it steadily, then quietly swallowed the soul candy. Poof! The soul from the soul candy pushed Ichigo out, using its extremely similar Reiatsu fluctuations to mask Ichigo's own movements. But on the other side, now wearing his Shinigami Shihakusho, Ichigo glanced at Rukia still sleeping in the closet, then directly climbed out the window. Downstairs, Kisuke, whom he had met 2 days ago, was already waiting for him, leaning on his cane. "You're too slow," Ichigo said immediately upon seeing Kisuke. Chapter 16 Kisuke's Teaching, The Confusion of Other Players. "Ah, Kurosaki-kun, please have some consideration for a small-time shop owner like me. Handcrafting a soul candy that matches yours, and ensuring it can fool Kachiki-san's senses, making it in 2 days was already pushing it to the limit. You should know, Kachiki-san was a top student at the Shino Academy," Kisuke explained in a light-hearted tone. Of course, Ichigo didn't believe a word of it. Kisuke's Zanpakuto, Beniheim, is an extremely powerful Kido-type Zanpakuto. Beniheim's ability is transformation and reconstruction. Within the range of his Reiatsu, he can repair himself, create items, or even dismantle enemies. Its common use is to create countermeasures based on the enemy the user currently faces. For example, in the original work, when Ichigo emerged from his hollow shell, Kisuke used a mimicked Getsuga Tensho against the real one for the first time. Kisuke was marked by Yhwach as one of the 5 special war potentials. The reason it's means and not wisdom is precisely because of this. If he wanted to, something like a soul candy would be simple. So he must have been preparing something else elsewhere. Sure enough, when Ichigo arrived at the Urahara shop and entered the spacious underground space, the first thing that greeted him wasn't an endless expanse of yellow earth, but an endless expanse of hollows. Their evil, filthy Reiatsu even formed a haze, dyeing the perpetually daytime underground space as dark as the forest of Minos. Holy crap, so many hollows. What's this for? How is this training? The livestream viewers, who had stayed up because they saw Ichigo wake up, were also curious seeing this scene. The special training mentioned earlier was finally beginning. At the same time, it was the first time they had seen so many hollows. With the livestream's excellent production value, the hollows felt terrifyingly real, putting a lot of pressure on the viewers. Are the players who entered the game fighting monsters like these? A comment marveled. Feels like we won't be sleeping tonight, brothers. And indeed, as they predicted. Looking at the hollows ahead, Ichigo glanced sideways at Kisuke beside him. I guess your special training involves me cutting down all these hollows? Bingo, correct. Kisuke opened his fan, his tone becoming sinister. After all, if I don't fully understand Kurosaki-kun's strength, how can I devise a training plan for you? But don't worry, these are just low-level, small fry hollows. They won't all swarm you at once. As he spoke, Kisuke clapped his hands. For small fry hollows, completely under his control, stepped forward. Clang! Ichigo drew his oversized Asachi. Snap! Kisuke snapped his fingers. Then tonight's combat training begins now. First, force out all your current strength. From 4 directions around Ichigo, the 4 small fry hollows charged simultaneously. It has to be said, this was indeed the training Ichigo needed. Ichigo's body, with its limitless potential, needed to be pushed to awaken its latent abilities. However, just 4 was underestimating the current Ichigo. Not enough, shopkeeper. Ichigo channeled Ryuryoku from within his body into his blood vessels. Blood venae activated, drastically boosting his physical abilities all over. Then, gripping the huge Asachi with both hands, his Ryatsu erupted. The moment the 4 small fry hollows closed in, he executed a sweeping slash. A circular white light flashed. In the next instant, all 4 small fry hollows were bisected at the waist. Then, their particles dissipated, and the 4 hollows vanished from the spot. Witnessing this, Kisuke's eyes showed surprise. Indeed, I underestimated you. Even though you've just become a Shinigami, your strength is already not inferior to an average seated officer. Then, how about this? Kisuke clapped his hands again. This time, 16 small fry hollows surrounded him. Coupled with the hollows' naturally large size, the 16 of them formed a circle, leaving no gaps for escape. Ah, now this is more like it. Ichigo tightened his grip on the great sword in his hands, squeezing out Ryuryoku from within. 16, 32, 64. With Ichigo going all out, his kill count kept rising. How to swing the sword, how the energy should flow, the effective range of the sword in his hand, how to switch steps and breathing, how to make movements more efficient. It was as if he was born for battle. Ichigo's various issues gradually became clear through practical combat. Chapter 17. This kid, he's stronger than me. As Ichigo continued to fight, although his actual Ryuryoku didn't increase, just like players of Dark Souls or Sekiro, Ichigo could clearly feel that he was slowly getting stronger. Watching Ichigo's heroic figure battling amidst the swarm of hollows, Kisuke looked to the side. So, Isshin, I didn't lie to you, did I? Ah, indeed. Isshin emerged from the shadows. This kid, he's stronger than me. Watching Ichigo swinging his large sword among the hollows, Isshin's eyes held a gratified look. His face was calm and composed now, completely devoid of the goofy demeanor he had at home. In that case, let's place our bets and teach him more. Perhaps one day, he might truly reach the heights we hope for. Yaruchi, Kisuke, I leave my son in your hands. After glancing at Kisuke beside him and the black cat on his shoulder, Isshin left. Thus, the meeting within Kisuke's small group concluded. However, a single speck of dust from the times can feel like a mountain on an individual's shoulders, and so can the actions of the strong. Watching Ichigo's rapidly rising points on the leaderboard, all the other players were baffled. Not sleeping at night, trying to outdo us, is that it? But the problem is, where are all these hollows coming from for him to kill? Everyone was puzzled, unable to figure it out. They probably couldn't have imagined that some people aren't just hard workers, they also have connections. The next day after the first training session, at noon, Ichigo came to Karakura High School's restroom. Ichigo-sama, you're back. Inside the restroom, the soul candy controlling Ichigo's current body greeted him respectfully. Any problems? Ichigo asked. None. Rukia-san was completely fooled. The soul candy answered respectfully, then began recounting the events of the morning. Good, you've worked hard. After confirming what happened in the morning, Ichigo nodded and returned to his body. Taking the soul candy out from his mouth, Ichigo carefully stored it away. Using his soul candy as a substitute meant his body got proper rest, but the soul's mental fatigue couldn't be replenished by the body alone. So Ichigo, having trained all night, also needed to sleep at the Urahara shop all morning, waiting until noon to find an opportunity to return to his body. This would become the daily routine from now on, but avoiding Rukia was an unavoidable part of it. Following the trajectory mentioned by the soul candy, Ichigo went to the rooftop. There, Kojima Mizuiro, Arisawa Tatsuki, Inoue Oraheim, and other friends of Ichigo were gathered, eating lunch. Then Ichigo remembered what the soul candy had reported. On Oraheim's fair, soft calfskin, there was a bruise that looked very much like a claw mark. So, her brother is back, huh? It seems I need to visit Inoue Oraheim's house tonight. Ichigo pondered. But Ichigo, who had been staring intently at Oraheim's calf, completely failed to notice. Under his gaze, Oraheim was growing increasingly nervous, tugging at her skirt, fidgeting, her face turning red until she resembled a steaming kettle, her eyes about to swirl into spirals like a mosquito coil. But Tatsuki noticed. After giving Ichigo another look, anger rose in Tatsuki's heart. Damn it, you idiot Ichigo, what are you looking at? Without hesitation, Tatsuki threw a punch at Ichigo. However, the next moment, sensing the whistling wind by his ear, Ichigo didn't think twice. He took a step to the right, dodging Tatsuki's fist, and immediately followed up with a fierce spinning whip kick. Ichigo's pants leg and clothes screeched sharply from the intense friction with the air. One could imagine the damaging effect such a whip kick would have if it connected with a person. For a moment, Tatsuki was so startled she froze. Watching the calf rapidly enlarging in her vision, Tatsuki's mind went blank. Fortunately, realizing his mistake in time, Ichigo forcibly stopped the whip kick just before it hit Tatsuki's head. Whoosh! The powerful wind carried by the kick momentarily pulled Tatsuki's short hair straight back. Sorry about that, Tatsuki, I was thinking about something just now. Retracting his leg, Ichigo said apologetically. Last night's bloody battle had helped him immensely. His combat awareness, the swiftness of his movements, and even his body control had all improved greatly. But it had also left him with a bit of combat PTSD, though Ichigo felt it wasn't a big issue. Being able to strike and also hold back is a skill, and learning to control oneself is also a form of training. However, such a sudden incident naturally attracted the attention of the others. Chapter 18 Plot Acceleration, The Approaching Trial. Ichigo, how could you do that? Tatsuki is our classmate. Mizuiro chastised. It's nothing, it was also my fault for suddenly attacking. Tatsuki, having regained her composure, quickly interjected. However, her mind was reeling with shock, since when did Ichigo become this strong? After the small commotion, the two went their separate ways. What's wrong with you? Rukia approached and asked after the others had moved away. Ichigo explained, it's nothing. Maybe I'm just a bit tense from fighting hollows lately, and I was thinking about the mark on Inoue's calf. Seeing Ichigo like this, a flicker of concern passed through Rukia's eyes. Unlike the original work, here, Ichigo was the one leading the way. So Rukia couldn't help but wonder if she was putting too much pressure on Ichigo. Rukia wanted to say something, but at that moment, Chad arrived carrying a parrot. Ah, Chad, what happened to you? And this parrot? Asano Kigo's exclamation drew everyone's attention. It's nothing. I just got hit by a steel bar, and this hand was hit by a motorcycle. Chad pointed to the bandage on his neck and the dressing on his hand, then added with a somewhat airhead, that motorcyclist ended up in the hospital, seriously injured, so I'm actually doing alright. Chad's words finally made the livestream comments silent for days, unable to hold back any longer. Damn, is this tall guy made of iron? Hit by a steel bar, hit by a car, and only minor injuries like that? Honestly, that's a bit ridiculous. Are all these Japanese high school boys monsters? The comments were filled with exclamations of surprise. But only Ichigo, observing from the side, knew more information. Oraheim's brother being transformed into a hollow and returning, Chad finding and raising a parrot, being attacked by a hollow, these events were supposed to happen one after the other. But now, they were overlapping. So, the plot has accelerated? Ichigo thought of the game coin bets placed on him a few days ago. It seemed the trial wasn't something that happened instantly but needed time to brew. This was the prelude to it brewing to completion. Hey, Ichigo, that parrot. Rukia leaned over. Ichigo nodded, yeah, I see it. Let's deal with it after school this afternoon. Along with Inoue's issue. Soon, it was afternoon dismissal at Karakura High School. Inoue, can you stay back after school? Ichigo called out to Oraheim. Ha? Me, you want me to stay. Not knowing what she was thinking, Oraheim's face turned bright red, and steam seemed to rise from her head. Seeing her like this, Ichigo couldn't help but feel a teasing urge. Yes, I have something very important to tell you. Ah, could it be that Kurosaki-kun is going to? The airhead and imaginative Oraheim instantly thought of 1,284 different scenarios. Ichigo smiled playfully. Going to what? MMPH. Oraheim let out a small cry of distress, took half a step back, and clutched the collar of her clothes tightly with her small, pale hands. At this point, Tatsuki, who couldn't stand it anymore, came to Oraheim's rescue. With a roar, Tatsuki gave Oraheim a flick on the forehead. What nonsense are you imagining again, Oraheim? Ichigo just wants to invite us to his house for dinner, that's all. I'm invited too. Ah, is that so? Oraheim was taken aback, her expression unable to hide her disappointment. Ichigo laughed and added, of course, I also invited Chad, Mizuiro, and the others. Let's just consider it bringing some joy to the unlucky Kurosaki clinic. After all, hollows despise scenes of happiness the most. The hollow hole of every hollow represents a lack of a certain emotion, and they will frantically seek out that emotion. But at this moment, Ichigo still didn't know exactly what he would face tonight. When evening came. Yash. You're all Ichigo's classmates. Thank you for looking after our Ichigo usually. Bottoms up. At the dinner table, Ishin, sitting at the head, acted as if he didn't sense the strange Ryatsu outside, raising a huge beer mug and drinking heartily. Wow, uncle, you can really hold your liquor. Mizuiro and Kigo, who enjoyed lively gatherings, chimed in, making Ishin even more pleased with himself. Then let's raise our glasses too. Tatsuki raised her glass filled with juice. Having been familiar with the Kurosaki family since childhood, she was as comfortable as a second host. Oh hoo! With Tatsuki taking the lead, the atmosphere instantly became lively. Chapter 19 New Enemies, Rukia's Fear. Instantly, everyone raised their glasses, and the atmosphere was lively. But just as everyone was toasting and drinking, Rukia's expression suddenly changed, and she gave Ichigo a look. Ichigo understood immediately. I need to use the restroom. Using the bathroom break as an opportunity, Ichigo swallowed the soul candy. Poof! Ichigo's soul popped out. The next moment, Kan, whom Ichigo had trained to be very obedient, took over control of the body. Soon after, Rukia also used the excuse of going to the bathroom to come out after taking the pre-prepared soul candy. On the outskirts of the Kurosaki clinic, the giant human-faced snake hollow transformed from Oraheim's brother, Inoue Sora. The bat hollow, a former murderer who could spit out leeches and control small frog-like demons. The fish hollow with nostrils on top of its head, which had bitten Sora causing his hollowification. And the giant toad hollow with protrusions like a morning star, with a caterpillar hollow wrapped around its back. A total of 5 hollows surrounded the Kurosaki clinic from 4 sides. Seeing Ichigo, the bat hollow stepped forward. Such a high-quality soul, I didn't expect it to have already become a Shinigami. But that's fine. The bat hollow grinned ferociously. Just like that kid's mother, humans always have things they feel compelled to protect. Actively gathering all your relatives and friends at home, I don't know if I should call you confident or arrogant? Looking at the bat hollow, Ichigo recalled distant memories. This was a serial perverted murderer. While alive, he threatened to harm Shibata Yuichi to force his mother to drain the last drop of her blood to protect Yuichi, torturing her to death. But just as this murderer was at his most triumphant, Yuichi pushed him off a building to his death. Furious after death, he turned into a hollow, dragged Yuichi's soul out, and stuffed it into a small parrot. He told him, as long as you can survive for 3 months, I will bring your mother back to life. However, whenever someone tried to protect Yuichi, the bat hollow would kill that person, then use those words again to make the grieving Yuichi run desperately. Because, your mother is waiting for you to pick her up. His goal was to continuously give people false hope and amuse himself in the process. This was an extremely vile hollow. Anger burned in Ichigo's heart, but a mere bat hollow was nothing to him, so he temporarily held back his rage. So, you're the ones who came to the party tonight? Looking at the group of small fries before him, Ichigo frowned. These were the enemies the game had been brewing for days? At the same time, the live stream comments were also very puzzled. 10 billion game coins, and this is the result? My assessment is, it's not even as intense as Ichigo's training last night. Could the rumors be true? The game has connections with national authorities, we just don't know about it. So, after the reaction that day, and the country communicating with foreign nations, advocating against using game coins this way, Ichigo's trial difficulty was reduced? Not sure, let's keep watching. Outside the Kurosaki clinic, hearing Ichigo's words, the Bat Hollow laughed. Party, I like that word. Since it's a party, of course it's not just us. There's also the pinnacle of all hollows in the living world, the one infinitely close to Minos Grande, Grand Fisher-sama. Hearing the Bat Hollow's words, Rukia's expression changed. Grand Fisher? That one who kept repelling Shinigami for 50 years but always managed to escape? Oh, you know about him, Rukia? Ichigo played the part of the straight man appropriately. Ah, yes. Rukia's face was grave. That hollow is extremely vile. He is most adept at hiding his form, using the decoy on his head to disguise himself as a human, and specifically targets people with high Ryuryoku who fall for it. Because he has consumed so many high-concentration spiritual bodies, it's hard to guess how much that hollow has grown now. Rukia's tone was heavy. What that hollow said about being close to a Minos Grande is entirely possible. It's going to be difficult today, Ichigo. Listening to Rukia, a figure with bobbed hair, entirely wrapped in a white cloak, stepped out. A deep male voice came from its mouth. Yo, I didn't know I was so famous. Grand Fisher stared greedily at Rukia. Your soul, although the spiritual power is faint, this is definitely the scent of a Shinigami. I see, today's my lucky day. I actually encountered a weakened female Shinigami. Hey, you all listen up, save this female Shinigami for me. Yes. Sir. Under Grand Fisher's tyrannical power, the other hollows bowed in submission. And at that moment, Rukia suddenly raised her hand. Heido number 4, Byakurai. Chapter 20 Awakening Mission, everyone watches the memories. As soon as the words fell, a blue-white bolt of lightning shot towards Grand Fisher's girl form. Rukia wanted to probe where Grand Fisher's true body was. But the result that followed left Rukia very surprised. The fleeting Byakurai merely grazed Grand Fisher's cheek, only stirring up a few strands of black hair. And behind it, there was nothing. Grand Fisher was slightly taken aback, then it understood Rukia's intention. I see, you're looking for my true body, aren't you? Unfortunately, I used to be a fisherman, so I only used one decoy outside. But now I've realized that the greater the Ryatsu, the larger the Zanpakuto, and the greater the power is wrong. Big doesn't mean strong, and being able to control it freely is true strength. So, my current form is my true body. Clearly, the enhanced Grand Fisher had evolved from merely mimicking individual organs to being able to mimic its entire body. Realizing this, Rukia's pupils shook, and a drop of cold sweat slowly trickled down. Because among Shinigami, compressing powerful Ryatsu is usually something only captains do. Ichigo, it really is close to a Jillian, a Minos Grande that only captains can deal with. For the first time, Rukia's voice carried a tremble in fear. We might die here. And her words once again stirred up a storm in the live stream. Urgent, 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 I'm the king of urgency. Damn it, didn't they say it wouldn't be a crushing effect? Yeah, based on the information we have, hollows are ranked as common small fry hollows in Minos Grande. Minos Grande are further divided into Jillian, Ajuchas, and Vastolord. Starting from Jillian, this level of hollow can only be dealt with by captains. And in the game, the strongest initial identity players can choose as lieutenant, and even then, it's a watered-down lieutenant. You can't even choose a captain, that already speaks volumes. As for the strength of captains, we've seen it from the sparring matches between Omida and my wife Suefong. At least Omida had no room for resistance. And that guy has been sparring with my wife Suefong every day these days, happily farming combat points. The combat points he's getting are no less than others fighting for their lives, so we can see the strength of captains from the side as well. Naturally, even if we haven't seen a Jillian, we can still infer its strength by comparison. We're done for. For a moment, all viewers who saw the scene felt pessimistic. But actually, the game hadn't made a mistake. Because the viewers didn't know that even though Jillian sound impressive, they are actually minor characters that captains can cut down effortlessly. And Rukia herself isn't weak. It's just that her current self has less experience. Moreover, due to various setbacks, like Byakuya's cold treatment, the incident separating her from her friends, Kayan's death, etc., she has emotional baggage, preventing her from fully utilizing her strength. Similarly, the live stream viewers were also unclear about Ichigo's true strength. In the live stream feed, Ichigo quite manfully stepped forward, directly placing himself in front of Rukia. He released Ryatsu close to 5th seat level and uttered Kakashi's famous line. "Rukia, don't be afraid. As long as I haven't fallen, I will absolutely not let my partner get hurt." Ichigo. Standing behind Ichigo, looking at his cool and stern profile and his determined eyes, Rukia was deeply moved. An intense sense of safety welled up in her heart. The subtle affection that had been budding since their first meeting quietly sprouted. However, after shielding Rukia, Ichigo didn't look at her again. Instead, he focused on Grand Fisher, who maintained its girl form. Memories flashed in Ichigo's mind. Instantly, he was transported back to Ichigo's memories. Everything from that night 6 years ago replayed vividly in his mind. The next moment, something Ichigo had never anticipated happened. In just a brief instant, Ichigo actually felt the call of Kurosaki Ichigo's soul. Then the two arrived in a strange space and had an exchange. Subsequently, Ichigo agreed to Kurosaki Ichigo's request. Returning to the Bleach world, Kurosaki Ichigo's intense emotions actually temporarily took control of Ichigo's consciousness and regained control of his body. Facing Grand Fisher, Kurosaki Ichigo asked, suppressing his emotions, 6 years ago, on that night, this appearance, where else has it appeared? Hearing Kurosaki Ichigo's words, Grand Fisher was momentarily stunned, then a look of realization dawned on its face. "I see, you've seen my form before. So, who was it that I devoured? Come on, tell me." Everyone has weaknesses in their hearts, things they can't bring themselves to harm. Tell me, and I can become her. Don't you want to see her? A malicious smile appeared on Grand Fisher's mimicked girl face. Simultaneously, its mimicked appearance began to flicker, countless faces of people it had devoured flashing by. "I can let you see her." That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated and taking over Ichigo's body. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released 1 day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.